Hey everyone, what is up? As you know, we are a little over a week away from the College Bowl season starting. As we speak right now on ESPN, they got the College Football Awards show going on. And then this Saturday we have Army versus Navy, as well as the Heisman Trophy Award show as well. But as I try to do every year when this time of season comes around, I like to talk about the College Bowl games. In case you guys have not listened to ESPN or did not watch the bowl selection show or even the playoff selection show, I'm here to tell you what bowl games, or what teams are going to be in what bowl games from the very beginning to the very end. And again, I still stand by, I will say this, I still stand by the fact that I believe that the playoffs should be changed around to where the number 1 and number 2 seeds host the semifinal games on the home field, and in that home field, thus opening up the door for other teams to get into the other college bowl games, New Year's Six or whatever you want to call it, and maybe even let the teams that don't win those semifinal games at least have a consolation prize in playing in one of those games as well. I think it's better. I think honestly it's more beneficial. It gives more opportunity to other schools to participate in the New Year's Six games, as well as it gives the highest ranking teams basically another home game to be played, but this time it's a home game to where if they win, they go to where the winner goes to the national championship. So again, I think it's more beneficial if they switch it around and allow the 2 top teams, in this case this year being Clemson and Alabama, be the team. I think honestly it'd be more beneficial if they hosted the semifinal games in their home stadiums against Ohio State and Washington instead of using the Fiesta and Peach Bowl as semifinal locations. I mean, yes, the winners become bowl champions, but then then what? Then what happens to the losers? They get the constellation of being runner-up? I think, again, honestly, I think it's more beneficial if they switch it up and just have the semifinal games on the home field to the top-ranking teams in the playoff system, and then, as a constellation, let the 2 teams that don't win those semifinals compete in one of those New Year's Day games, and then it opens up the other New Year's Day game as for an at-large team. So basically, you'd still get your college playoff, but you'd keep things, but basically, and you'd still get your New Year's Eve Six or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, that's just how I feel. I still believe that they should at least keep the door open for that potentiality. And I think again it'd be beneficial for a team, for all schools, for the NCAA to go in that direction, because you'll open the door for other teams that should get into these bowl games. You open that door up to give them that opportunity. You don't shut it on them and then just use those bowl games as semifinal games. You bring them back to being what people play for, and that's prestigious bowl games around the New Year's time, around the New Year's Day, New Year's Eve time. And then you use the home field of the 2 ranking highest teams in the playoff rankings as semifinal sites for the semifinals to be played at, and then you give the 2 teams that advance to the national championship at least over a month to rest up and get ready for that match, or get ready for that game. But that's just me, that's just my opinion. So anyway, let's take a look at the playoffs right now. Look at the bowl schedule right now. We'll get to the playoff bowl games in a little bit. The first bowl game to start us off on December 17th, basically a week from now, the first bowl game to start us off will be the Air Force Reserve Celebration Bowl. It is North Carolina Central against Grambling. Now, this used to be another kind of game that they did, then they just turned into a bowl game, which I guess is pretty cool. It gives the SWAC and the MEAC a chance to shine and be seen in front of a larger audience, and it works out really well, and maybe this might lead to something. I mean, they did this last year and it worked. Maybe if they keep doing this, it might lead to something to where maybe you'll get a Grambling school or North Carolina Central School that might get recognized as being maybe future playoff contenders if they ever go undefeated. So that's the first bowl game, the Celebration Bowl on December 17th at 12 o'clock Eastern on ABC. It's North Carolina Central and Grambling. And then following that, at 2 o'clock Eastern on ESPN, you have the New Mexico Bowl. Basically, it's another home game for New Mexico because they're in this bowl game against UTSA, Texas San Antonio. That's going to be on ESPN. That ought to be a good one. I think New Mexico might have the advantage in that. We'll just have to wait and see. Texas San Antonio, I think it's their first bowl appearance. They're going to probably want it more, so we'll just have to see. I think overall it's going to be a good bowl game because you've got New Mexico that wants to win on the home turf, and it's extra special because it's the bowl game, and this time the visitors on the home turf, and Texas San Antonio is the home team, and it's going to be it's going to be very meaningful for both teams because they're both going to want that bowl win for some reason or another. Then later on ABC at 3:30 Eastern, you have the Las Vegas Bowl, and that's the 25th annual Las Vegas Bowl, formerly the California Raisin Bowl from a long time ago. You're going to have Houston against San Diego State. Kind of different bowl sites for Houston in the past year or so. So that might be an interesting game because Houston's going to have, from what I saw on the bowl selection show, Houston's going to have their hands full with San Diego State. So this ought to be a good one. And you can guarantee San Diego State's going to have a home field advantage with a lot of fans traveling up to Las Vegas. Let's see. Then after that, on ESPN at 5:30 Eastern, you have the Raycom Media Carmella Bowl, the Raycom Media Carmella Bowl. You have Appalachian State, second or third bowl appearance since they become an FBS school, against Toledo. That's going to be in Montgomery, Alabama. That ought to be good. I think Appalachian State's got the advantage in that one. And then on the CBS Sports Network at 5:30 at the same time frame, basically both games start at the same time anyway, 5:30 Eastern. You have on CBS Sports Network the Auto Nation Q Bowl. You have UCF and Arkansas State. That ought to be good. And I think UCF is going to have a bit of a home field advantage because they do play in the stadium where they're going to be at, and that's Camping World Stadium, the Citrus Bowl. And then to close out the 17th, you have the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. You have Southern Mississippi back in it again against Louisiana Lafayette. Ought to be good. I think these two teams met before in that. So we'll just have to wait and see. I think Southern Miss is going to want it a little bit more. Then on December 19th, 2 days later, it's the only bowl game on a Monday. It's the only bowl game on a Monday. We have the Miami Beach Bowl at Marlins Park in Miami. You have Central Michigan against Tulsa. It ought to be good. It's going to be at 2:30 Eastern, so it'll be a day game. And I'm looking at a close one, but I think Central Michigan might want this more than Tulsa. Then the next day you have on the next day on December 20th, you have the Boca Raton Bowl or Raton Bowl. BR Bowl is what I call it. Boca Raton Bowl or Rotten Bowl. Again, BR Bowl, if you will, from Boca Raton, Florida. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. At FAU Stadium. You're going to have Memphis against Western Kentucky. I think Western Kentucky pulls this one out in a close one. That's the December 20th Bowl, the Boca Raton Bowl, or whatever, I'm sorry. Again, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Then the next day we have one bowl game only, and that's the San Diego County Credit Union Poseta Bowl. You have BYU against Wyoming, a rematch of longtime Mountain West Conference rivals. Ought to be a good one. I think Wyoming wins this one because they're going to want it a little bit more than BYU. Then December 22nd, you get another one bowl game day. Oh, and by the way, Both games, December 20th and 21st, are going to be, well, December 20th is a game between Memphis and Western Kentucky, the BR Bowl as I call it, 7 o'clock Eastern. The Poseta Bowl between BYU and Wyoming, 9 o'clock Eastern. And then December 22nd at 7 o'clock Eastern is the Idaho Potato Bowl, formerly the Humanitarian Bowl. You have Idaho against Colorado State. I think Colorado State's going to surprise Idaho in this one. We'll probably have a good Idaho Potato Bowl on our hands. And that's at 7 o'clock Eastern on the 22nd. I'll provide a link down below if you guys want to take a look. Then on December 23rd, we have 3 bowl games on December 23rd. We have at 1 Eastern, we have the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl. We have Eastern Michigan and Old Dominion. This ought to be a good one. I think Old Dominion is going to want a little bit more, but Eastern Michigan, after not being in the bowl season for a while, is going to probably want just as good. You're going to have a shootout in the Bahamas. And that's at 1 Eastern on ESPN. That is the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl. Then you have the Armed Forces Bowl, the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. You have at 4:30 Eastern, you have Louisiana Tech and Navy. So Navy gets into a bowl game. People thought, honestly, if Navy would have beat Temple, they would have been that bowl. That would have been that New Year. They would have been one of the New Year's Day bowl breakers. So if Navy would have won, they, along with Western Michigan, probably would have been together in the New Year's Six game. But instead, Navy heads to the Armed Forces Bowl, all against Louisiana Tech at 4:30 Eastern on ESPN on December 23rd. And then to close out December 23rd, you have the Dollar General Bowl. You have, on ESPN, you have Ohio and Troy. That ought to be a good one. And I expect a shootout there too, so definitely tune in for, and that's at 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN, the Dollar General Bowl, so definitely tune in for that one between Ohio and Troy. And then on Christmas Eve at 8 Eastern, you have the Hawaii Bowl. Hawaii, just like New Mexico, gets an additional home game, but it becomes more special for them because it's a bowl game. They will take on Middle Tennessee State in this game. I expect Hawaii to pull out all the stops to not only win another home game, but to win a bowl game as well. And then, the day after Christmas, on December 26th, we have the St. Petersburg Bowl on ESPN at 11 a.m. Eastern. We have Miami of Ohio and Mississippi State. Mississippi State, one of the 5 and 7 teams, because of academics getting in. Mississippi State, I think, is going to roll on this one. They really do. Then following that, we have the Quick Lane Bowl. Maryland against Boston College at 2:30 Eastern on ESPN. Maryland and Boston College. I think Boston College is going to win that one. Then we have the Camping World Independence Bowl. We have North Carolina State against Vanderbilt on ESPN2. I think Vanderbilt takes that one. And then December 27th, we have the Heart of Dallas Bowl. Zachaby's Heart of Dallas Bowl. We have Army back in the bowl game against North Texas. I think Army pulls this out because they're going to want it a little bit more. North Texas, yes, will have a bit of home field advantage, but I think Army comes out on top. And that's at 12 Eastern on December 27th. And then at 3:30 Eastern on that same day, following the Heart of Dallas Bowl, we have the Military Bowl. We have Temple against Wake Forest. I believe we're going to have a good one here. I think Wake Forest upsets Temple. And that's at 3:30 Eastern on December 27th on ESPN. Then we have the Holiday Bowl, the National Funding Holiday Bowl. We have Minnesota and Washington State, 7 p.m. Eastern. I think Washington State pulls this one out in a big way. Washington State, I think, going to take the Holiday Bowl. And then to close out that day, we have the Motel 6 Cactus Bowl at 10:15 Eastern Time. It's Boise State and Baylor. I think Baylor is going to surprise Boise State here and walk out with the Cactus Bowl trophy. So that's going to be a good shootout in the desert at Chase Field in Phoenix. But I think Boise is going to be in for a surprise against Baylor in that bowl game. Then December 28th, we have excuse me for a second. Okay, and then on December 28th, and I do apologize that this goes into two parts. On December 28th, we have at 2 Eastern, we have the New Era Pinstripe Bowl. We have Pittsburgh against Northwestern. I think Pittsburgh wins this one. And then at 5:30 Eastern, and that'll be on ESPN as well as this one, we have the Russell Athletic Bowl, Western Virginia and Miami, former Big East foes. I think West Virginia pulls this one out in a shootout at Camping World Stadium in the Russell Athletic Bowl. And then on Fox, not ESPN, but on Fox at 8:30 Eastern at Levi Stadium, we have Indiana against Utah. I think Indiana upsets Utah in the Foster Farms Bowl on Fox at 8:30 Eastern in Levi Stadium on December 28th. And then to close it out, we have a battle of former Big 12 foes. We have Kansas State and Texas A&M in the Texas Bowl on ESPN at 9 o'clock Eastern. I think Kansas State wins this, and that's not because I lived in Kansas and I like Kansas State. I think they got a better offense and defense than Texas will be, and they're going to want it a lot more. Then, the next day on December 29th, we have the Birmingham Bowl at 2 p.m. Eastern. We have South Florida and South Carolina on ESPN, Birmingham Bowl, 2 o'clock Eastern. That's a toss-up right there. Then, also on ESPN, following that, we have the Belk Bowl at 5:30 Eastern. We have Arkansas, Virginia Tech. I think Arkansas upsets Virginia Tech. And then following that on ESPN at 9 o'clock Eastern, we have Oklahoma State against Colorado. Battle of former Big 12 foes here. I think Colorado surprises Oklahoma State in the Alamo Bowl. And then on December 30th at 12 Eastern on ESPN, we have the Liberty Bowl. We have Georgia against TCU. I think Georgia beats TCU. I really do. And then on CBS, we have the Sun Bowl. Stanford against North Carolina. Stanford, maybe it's biasness, maybe it's localness. I think Stanford rolls in this one. And that's on CBS at 2 Eastern. Then we have the Music City Bowl at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN. We have Nebraska and Tennessee. I think Nebraska barely gets by in this one over Tennessee. Then after that, on Campus Insiders, in other words, your Comcast Sports Network, if you have that, we have the Arizona Bowl and have South Alabama and Air Force. I'm mostly hearing it might be on ESPN, maybe, I don't know. But it'll be South Alabama and Air Force. I think Air Force wins this one. And then the first of the New Year's 6 bowls, we have the Capital One Orange Bowl. We have Michigan against Florida State. I think this is going to be a shootout. I think it's getting down to the wire. I think Michigan barely gets by in this one. I really do. And then on New Year's Eve, the next day on New Year's Eve, we have the Buffalo Wings Citrus Bowl, which is the first, as far as I know, that the Citrus Bowl will be on New Year's Eve. It'll be LSU and Louisville. Again, another shootout, a close one. I think Louisville squeaks by. And then we have the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. I still look at it as the Gator Bowl. Follow at the same time on New Year's Eve, we have Georgia Tech and Kentucky. I think Kentucky wins this game. And then on January 2nd, due to the fact that January 1st is New Year's Day and that's a Sunday, January 2nd, we have the Outback Bowl. We have Florida against Iowa, and this will be on ABC at 1 Eastern. I think Florida wins this one. They're going to want it a little bit more. Then you got the Cotton Bowl. You got the Cotton Bowl following that at the same time, 1 Eastern. Or at the same time, I should say, you have the Cotton Bowl, another New Year's Day game, New Year's 6 game. You have the Cotton Bowl. You have Western Michigan and Wisconsin. Western Michigan, one of those Big 5 schools that got in because of the undefeated record. I think Western Michigan wins the Cotton Bowl against Wisconsin. I really do.